Hey, you're listening to Meeple, uniting players from around the world. I'm PJ,
And I'm Gareth.
and on today's episode, canvases of color, miniatures in your board games. The question is, to paint or not to paint? Gareth,
Or to start
how
to
are you?
paint or not to paint. I'm really, really well.
Or doing all of the above, right? This is great.
Yeah, or doing anything. I mean, this is something I've only just got into. So I have been terrified of painting.
And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about not just your fear, but just in general, right? So since you've recently gotten started painting minis, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started? Why did you make the decision? And how did it go so far?
So I've obviously been playing games about 10, 12 years. I definitely painted when I was, I don't know, I'm going to say 12, 13. Good old Games Workshop, metal figures, and I wasn't very good. And I did find those only, I reckon, about a year ago in my mum's attic. And they are somewhere in this house. I don't know where they are. I brought them home. They might be back in our loft.
I need to see that.
No one. What they'll be was we'll clean them and we'll paint them again.
You can do that.
Yeah, we'll be doing that. And then, so I've got a tremor, a very mild one that generally, if I don't, as long as I don't drink caffeine, it's all right. But it definitely doesn't help. I'm doing like very fine things. So I always thought, rubbish at painting, don't give it a try. Those minis would look good, but why ruin them? So I was just terrified. And then about 2 months ago, I had Wonderland's War. And I was like, this game is beautiful. These need painting. And I thought, should I, shouldn't I? I went on to Board Game Geek. There was a guide how to paint them using Army Painter speed paints. Mm-hmm. And some guy had just done washes, and they looked perfect. So I bought some paints, and I then bought primers, and I bought brushes, and I bought a wet palette, which I need for my acrylics. I've now bought since then, and I had great fun painting Wonderland's War.
That's awesome. No, the wet palette is totally it. You have to do it. It's a must.
Yeah, I don't think you need it for speed paints. But you need it for the acrylics.
But it is a game changer for sure.
Yeah. And then I painted those with just the washes, which look great, and I was really happy with. And then I thought, there's the battle marker. It's like a sword in a stone. So I painted that properly and went, no, these look really good for somebody who's only been painting for about 3 days. So I varnished those with a matte varnish, played with them, and thought, yeah, this is good. What next? So what else than Nemesis? Because why not?
Right.
Yeah. So I've painted all of the main box. I'm really happy with them. I mean, you're never going to win a competition. And if you are good at painting, you're going to spot some flaws. But they are more than adequate. And I learned how to do that spraying with the different colours to, what's it called?
Zenithal highlight.
Zenithal highlights. And then I thought, now I need some proper paints. So I've also got a box of acrylics, which I acquired. So I've fallen down the rabbit hole. And I guess this conversation came from, what do you paint? Why do you paint it? And I mean, do you paint? And I think you've got some top tips because, somebody is quite good at painting.
Yes, absolutely. So my story is a few years ago, we had Star Wars Imperial Assault. Mm-hmm. And my wife and I decided to paint them because the miniatures, all the Imperial miniatures are this just dark gray, gunmetal gray. The Rebel figures are this boring beige.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that should be a color. Boring beige. Yeah. And Citadel might pick up on that and they might do a boring beige color. And I am going to give them the rights to that now. So we started painting together, right? So it was another, we already gamed together, and it was another, an expansion of our hobby that we got to share together. Well, this is what we realized right away is She has natural talent, and then she has skill, and her skill developed. I had no natural talent. I know that's a shocker.
Unbelievable. I'm disappointed.
No talent, but I started to do skill. In fact, so there was a weekend. She went out of town, or I don't know why, but I was painting by myself, and I painted. Who did I paint? Oh my god, the lizard bounty hunter. Why is his name escaping me from Star Wars? Anyway,
Yeah, I know you mean. Yeah.
oh my god, his name is
I can
totally.
see him.
Yes, like I should know this, and everyone's going to kill me for it. But I'm painting him, and he looked great, and I'm like, that's when I knew I had skill. And so we painted and we painted, but then we moved into the house, and my wife's got this space for all of her crafting and painting, and she does all the painting. I don't. So for the remainder of this episode, when I talk about we paint or I paint, what I really mean is my wife paints.
Yeah.
Okay. I prime all the minis. I go outside on the back deck and prime them for her. She paints them, and when she's ready, then I lacquer them, and I use a matte finish as well. So we painted all of Star Wars Imperial Assault, 172,
Wow.
192 with all the expansions.
Yeah.
Everything's painted, right? And then since then, she and I were talking about, in preparation for this episode, we were talking about some things, and these are the things that, so this is coming from my wife, right? That she wanted me to make these points. These are the top tips that we talked about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the first one, I think you've already you experienced and moved past, and that's, don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
do not
Do
let
it.
your fears, don't let your fears stop you. And we all have it, all of us. Number two, no one's looking at your painting, right? It's you and the miniatures and the paint, right? Now, granted, you might share them on Instagram or other social media, and then people are looking, but at that point, you open things up to judgment. But, and I think the key is make sure they look good on the table. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I think that's the thesis for when my wife is painting miniatures going forward is, do they look good on the table? That's all we care about. We're not interested in, we're not doing a competition. We've got our friends who do the Warhammer 40K, and they spend
Yeah.
20 or more hours on one single miniature, which is great. They look amazing, but that's not our purpose.
I've got board
We
games
want
to
to,
play. I've not got 20
right,
hours.
right. And so we want to look good on the table. The Speed Wash by Army Painter or by Citadel, the contrast paints, make that even faster. So thank you guys for that.
Yeah. I think from what I've read, I think the Army Painter ones are seen as slightly better. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm quite happy with them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess it just, as you say, got through that barrier of fear, and definitely not having grey lumps of plastic on the table.
Yep.
It just brings it to life. Yeah.
And since then, we've painted all of Nemesis, including the Void Seeders and the Carnomorph expansion,
Okay.
and
Yep.
and the Aftermath expansion. Except for the Space Cats, we haven't painted those. They're sitting on the table waiting to be painted. Scythe, all of Scythe.
Nice.
Mice and Mystics,
Wow.
Stuffed Fables, and the Oh Brother expansion, and Flashpoint. Those firemen,
because those are really, I can imagine they'd be really nice. And then they're
so
quite chunky as well. They're chunky minis.
But so my wife said they're boring.
Oh, really?
Like, painting them is boring because you're basically painting them all like black, because at least in the United States, a fireman's, it's black with like yellow outlines, and then the helmets are all red. So they're not visually versed. I don't know. She said they were boring to paint, but she got them done, and they look amazing on the table, and that's what
the important bit.
matters.
The one I'm going to do is it's similar. It's probably like Dice Hospital. It's just got white ambulances and helicopter. I mean, it's easy, but
Yeah,
they'll get done. And there's a game. What's it called? The Nemo. It's only got one boat. It's got the ship, the Nautilus in it. I was
Nautilus.
like, yeah, that's it. I need to paint that game.
Yep.
Get it done.
And then then the question is whether or not to paint, right? So,
Yeah.
I have a list of games that we're currently, should we paint them, right? Like, we haven't. And the question is, should we? And we can run through those pretty quickly. So first of all is Star Wars Rebellion.
Ooh,
It
I have
it
that,
hits
and I'd love to paint it.
It hits the table, and
But-
when it's on the table for 3 hours because that's a long game. The reality is, as you know, number one, the sheer number of minis,
Yeah.
right? And they're so small.
They're idle.
Yeah. I think ultimately we've decided we're not going to paint them because they're just too small.
I was thinking whether I painted all the ships with just like a wash, and whether I just painted the stormtroopers white with a dark wash and just let it go. So at least there's a little bit of colour. But I'd have to batch it, just sit there for a long time and just think. I might give it a go. I've saved a few tutorials, but they are, I think with my shaky hand, I'll be better off chunky. And I was thinking something like Red Rising Sun. Oh man, there's a lot.
But those are beautiful minis.
But they are beautiful minis.
And they're big, so they're easy to paint.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
What other games have you got that you think you might paint? And which games have you got that you wouldn't paint?
So we've got Pan Am.
Yep. Little planes.
Do you paint the planes? They're various sizes. They could be cool.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anyone paint them yet.
No, I haven't seen them. Are they coloured or are they grey?
They are. They're colored.
Coloured. Yeah.
Colored.
So, yeah.
So, this war of mine.
They've got beautiful minis. There's that statue kind of angel thing. Yep. That'd be beautiful. I think mine are resin, though. Resin? Aren't they resin? Yeah.
Yes. It's better.
Yeah,
resin is better. Love the resin. We haven't painted them. To be fair, we haven't painted them because it doesn't hit the table very often.
Same. I haven't played that game for a long time.
If you're trying to develop the skill and you ultimately want to maybe get competitive, or you just want to push yourself then go ahead, paint all your stuff. Yeah, I wouldn't, but it doesn't hit the table enough, so we haven't painted them, and we probably won't either, but we'll see what happens. The other one's Sleeping Gods.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, is that one of the things, is if it's not going to hit the table that you don't play, that's a major factor in not painting them?
I think so, yeah. I think that's really, for us, right? If it's not going to ever hit the table, why do I take precious time that could be spent gaming? Why do I take away and paint these miniatures that aren't going to hit the table? So we don't paint them. So yeah, that really is important to us. Also the quality of so Sleeping Gods just has the ship, the Manticore.
Yeah.
Paint it. I don't know that, and that's a good example of, will it enhance our experience? Will it look good on the table? Yes, but I mean, it's just a ship. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I just thought of another one. I'm looking at my shelf over here, and I realize the quality of the molds matters. So horrified.
Oh yeah.
They're really bad quality miniatures.
No detail on there, is there?
No, and that matters. You need the detail.
Yeah.
So we probably won't paint those. What else do I have? Destinies.
Yeah.
Just recently picked up Destinies. Got it for $25 because the box was damaged, but it was in shrink. Yeah, right.
Yeah, 25.
Beautiful minis. Beautiful. They're various sizes. So some of them are really small. Do I want to bother painting that? Or does she want to bother painting that? But then again, it's got some bigger minis, which are beautiful. So it's kind of and the thing is, we just recently acquired the game. So do we want to paint it? Is this a game that's going to hit the table? We're not sure, right?
Are there any games that you want painted,
That
but
I
your other half
want.
doesn't?
Oh, wow. That is a really good question. Are there any games? And now I'm looking at my collection and I'm like, is there a game I want painted, but she doesn't? You know, to be fair, we're on the same
Same
page.
wavelength. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I don't think there is. I will say there's a game that I don't own. We talked about this earlier. There's a game that I don't own. It's a Kickstarter that I passed up uh, for various reasons. I kick myself all the time. It's a game I really want to play, but I also want to paint the miniatures, which is an additional motivation for buying it and finding a copy. And I'm on the lookout
What
everywhere,
game?
and that is Lords of Hellas.
Yeah, I've got it full on Kickstarter and all of the promos, and that's a game that, after we briefly spoke earlier, has gone to the top of my list
Yep.
to paint.
Yep. Yeah, you need to paint that.
Yeah, if no one's seen it, there's like monuments that stack, they all come apart and they build and they tower over the board. It's kind of it's Greek mythology, but with a robotic kind of war. Yeah, you need that. You need to come over on our battleship.
I do. No, you're absolutely right. And I will say that in my dreams, I have scheduled my flight.
Cool.
And I'll be there.
Yeah,
sometime.
2023. The other game I've got on my list is I've just managed to get a copy of Shadows over Camelot, which now we've got a really good gaming group. It's got like little catapults and it's got the knights, the round table. It's going to get painted. That's also on the list.
That's great.
So I think it's if the game like Nemesis, it's all about those aliens, and Camelot is all about the war machines and the knights. I think if it's going to add a little bit more, but yeah, it's addictive. I find it really good for just relaxing, mindfulness, taking time out. The only downside is it eats into game time.
There've been okay, that's true. I'm not going to argue that point because that's very true. So for example, Stuff Fables, Oh Brother expansion, we have not yet played. So check this out. It's one of 4 games in our collection that we have not played yet because the miniatures have not been painted. And I know you're going to love this.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to throw you an impressive number. We have played 97.7% of our entire collection this year.
And these are the final 2 or so % because you haven't painted them.
Right. So we have 4 games left.
You need to get those painted in 8 weeks and play them.
Well, no, they're painted now.
Okay, so nothing's not painted. You can now just get them done.
But the reason why it hasn't been played is because we were waiting to paint the miniatures.
Yeah. Nice.
97.7.
Yeah.
And
I think
I have 0 on my shelf of shame.
I won't even give a number. It's gonna currently for 2022 we're on 22%.
Played or not played?
22% of own base games played in this period.
Okay. Yeah.
I've
got to get to England.
This is actually this is the worst years. This year we've definitely played less. Maybe because of lockdown we really bumped it up in the last couple of years.
Yep.
Yeah, we're nowhere near getting anywhere near our top place.
To be fair, one of the reasons why we set this goal for ourselves was because we knew we were going to do 4 days at Gen Con. And it's part of the budgeting, right? Okay, so you're going to spend money on games. Okay, well, we need to get these games played because some of them we need to get out of here and make room, right? So, it's a juggling act, but sometimes painting the miniatures will prevent you from playing a game. So It's all part of the package. It's part of the experience, no doubt.
So is there anything else you have to paint, or is there anything that you're going to go back to you've played that?
I don't think we have anything.
Nice.
Yeah,
Apart
I don't
from
think
the
there's anything else to.
Space Gap.
Yeah, exactly. So in preparation for this episode, I was looking around in our collection. I was trying to figure out what have we painted, and what needs to be painted, just like, you know. And I'm looking, and I was actually there was a game that I sitting on the shelf, and I was like, man, oh wait, it doesn't have any miniatures to paint, but I really wish that it did because we love it so much, and that's Obsession.
You have to ask Dan for a meeple plus a miniature upgrade for the next, if there's an expansion, all because you need them. I think that, I mean, they're wooden meeples, and I do need to get those stickers, but they do the job. I don't think it'll be the same. I think the wooden piece is part of that Victorian England
It is part of the
feel
charm.
to it. Minis wouldn't work, but I know. Well, we've mentioned Obsession in another podcast when you wouldn't think it'd get near it. So well done.
Because some of our listeners have mentioned that we went 2 episodes without mentioning Obsession. So
I'm glad somebody noticed. They'll be pleased tallying it up.
So yeah, because like, I was looking, and I was like, oh, I really wish. Oh, that doesn't have miniatures.
Yeah.
So
because some people buy the board game not for the board game, they buy them for the minis. I'm thinking things like Zombicide and other games in that.
Yeah.
The Marvel. Just buy them for the minis because you get the minis plus you get the Kickstarter bonus packs.
Well, and then you have Star Wars Legion, and you've got was it Marvel United?
Oh yeah.
Is it United?
Yeah,
the
I think
Marvel miniatures game.
Yeah.
Where the miniatures are the game, and I get that. It's not a board game, but it's close enough. I don't know how our friends who play Warhammer, I don't know how they do it. Like,
because you're not allowed to go play Warhammer without painting. I mean, you can.
It's true.
There's rules. There are
rules.
Yeah.
And as we established from episode 1, rules are important.
They are important.
We have to follow them. So, it's very impressive. I could never get into true miniature gaming.
No.
But I could play board games with miniatures all day.
I think the other one's I'm going to have to go downstairs now and look at the collection. And pick out. I think it will be Lords of Hellas.
It needs to be.
I think it will be. And then I'll get it back to the table because it has been hit the table for ages.
And it needs to be painted, and I need to play. Like, that's I'm coming over. That's just it. It's happening. I got to make it happen.
What's your best game that's got the best painted minis? Or the game that is best with painted minis?
I mean, that's going to be Nemesis. Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah. Imperial Assault is it's huge. Whenever we're playing, sometimes I choose which rebel hero I'm going to play for the entirety of the campaign based off of the miniature, so those are good too. Those are some really impressive. Look, the level of detail my wife did with Darth Maul, with all his black and red across his body, and Ahsoka Tano. Oh my gosh. Want to talk about a steady hand?
Yeah, see, that's never going to work. Now, I think we're going to take some photographs of our minis. No one can judge, and we're going to put them as our reel for this episode launch.
You're not going to judge, just do it quietly.
Yeah, don't mock, or be kind. Just be kind. Right. So that'll go out. That'll go out with the this episode, which is it's next week, I think, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's pretty quick.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay. So another game I just thought about real quickly is Terraforming Mars. So we ordered the big box, the big black box with all the 3D stuff. Before that, we had picked up at a local game store in Wisconsin these 3D cities, and we painted those. And it was interesting because, like, the generic cities, my wife found like a rust color for the sand of Mars, and then there were two of them for, I think, Ganymede colony and the other one, and she made sure it was gray because it was like the moons. And we painted those. Now, since we've gotten the big box for terraforming Mars, we don't use them anymore because we've got really cool city markers. But even then, it just goes to show you that, number one, don't be afraid. And if you overcome that fear, you might find that it becomes a joy. I think so. I had a pastor friend of mine who was talking about spirituality and prayer life and things of that nature, but I think it applies to anything. First of all, you have a desire. It's the 3Ds. The 3Ds. One is desire, right? You have a desire to paint your minis. 2, discipline. You have to discipline, set aside the time to paint your minis, right? And then 3, it becomes a delight so that you start finding ways to paint things in other games. Terraforming Mars is a perfect example, right? Like, we found cities, or my wife found cities to paint just because you want to keep the skill alive because it's such a joy. So, you start with the desire, build with the discipline, and then you eventually get to the delight. And I love that. That piece of advice has stuck with me for years. And even though it was not his original intent, I feel like it applies in so many different avenues of our life.
Yeah.
So
definitely. I find painting a joy. And may it continue. And
Lords of Hellas, baby.
I'll take a photograph of it playing, add it to the photographs for Tuesday, coming soon.
I love it.
I think those 3 tips, don't be afraid. No one's going to,
no one's looking.
And just make them look good on the table is top advice. So if you haven't tried painting before, give it a go. If you want some help, send them to PJ and he'll get his assistant to paint them for you.
That is not what you meant. Gareth apologizes. He did not mean assistant. Okay.
Gaming assistant.
She is the boss. I'm the assistant. Okay.
Yeah, you're the assistant. I remember that now. Whatever I said was wrong. So, so thank you everyone for listening. I think it was a great episode to understand a bit more about the world of painting. And thank you, PJ, for joining us for another Meeple to Meeple.
Thank you, brother. I really enjoy talking to you. It's a pleasure.
Check you out. See you soon, everyone. Thanks. Cheers.
Bye. Bye-bye.